Scientists are finally revealing the DNA evidence they say helped solve one of history's biggest crime mysteries, the identity of Jack the Ripper. Back in 1888, the notorious serial killer murdered and mutilated the bodies of 5 women in London. Vladimir Dudier of our streaming network, that's CBSN, shows us why an immigrant from Poland is now a leading suspect. Vlad, good morning to you.
Good morning. The savagery of Jack the Ripper's crimes terrorized the residents of London. No one was even charged, although the police have had their suspicions. Now, more than a century later, modern technology may have finally unmasked the elusive killer.
Few criminals have captivated the world's imagination like Jack the Ripper.
Altogether a different breed of killer.
This silk shawl is believed to be the last piece of physical evidence left from his killing spree more than 130 years ago. 2 biochemists who analyzed it say they detected the DNA of Catherine Eddowes, Jack the Ripper's 4th victim, in apparent bloodstains. They also found a semen stain they believe came from Aaron Kosminski, a 23-year-old Polish barber who at the time was a prime suspect. Researcher David Miller.
I think the fact that there are two signatures which appear to match signatures from descendants increases the confidence that what we're looking at is something which is real.
Miller and his co-author published their data for the first time in a scientific paper last week. They said the semen stain contained fragments of mitochondrial DNA, genetic material children inherit only from their mothers, that match Kosminski's living relatives. Author Russell Edwards, who hired the scientists to conduct the DNA test, originally disclosed the findings in his book, naming Jack the Ripper. He spoke to Sunday Morning in 2015.
We've proved this. You know, all the story absolutely fits like a jigsaw puzzle.
I think they come up with rather convincing evidence.
Dr. Stanley Nelson, a UCLA professor of human genetics, says the DNA case against Kosminski is strong, but not completely ironclad.
They're not identifying a unique person. Actually, it's about 1 in 50 to 1 in 100 individuals in modern England have this mitochondrial type.
Kosminski died in an asylum in 1919. The British biochemists say their original aim was not to learn Jack the Ripper's true identity, but to see how far they could stretch modern scientific techniques to analyze minute DNA samples that were over 100 years old, Bianna.
Once again, modern science solving age-old mysteries, right? Thanks, Vlad.
This is the true story of Jack the Ripper, the murderer who sent letters with organs of his victims to the police to laugh at them. Jack the Ripper was a serial killer who lived in London in the time of 1888. The first victim of Jack was a woman named Mary Ann who appeared lifeless with 2 cuts on her neck. While the police investigated this case, another woman who was also a prostitute appeared in an alley with cuts identical to the ones Mary Ann had on her neck. After a couple of erroneous arrests by the police, 2 other women appeared lifeless with the same cut, except that the last one had been disemboweled. Due to the cuts, many forensic experts of the time deduced that the person responsible for the terrible acts had ample anatomical knowledge, given that his cuts were perfect, and this was confirmed with the last and most terrifying victim of Jack. His victim was Mary Jane Kelly, who was found lifeless in her room, totally unrecognizable. Jack's identity was never known until 2014, where from one of his victim's clothes, DNA traces were extracted, resulting in the identification of Aaron Kosminski, an immigrant who suffered from schizophrenia.
Why was Jack the Ripper's final killing so different? Mary Kelly allowed her killer into her lodgings with police finding no sign of forced entry. Did she know him? It seems that the Ripper was particularly brutal when ending her life, going as far as to rip her heart from her chest cavity and mutilating her face beyond all recognition. Again, this suggests that the Ripper may have known her intimately. Her abdomen was empty and her vital organs scattered across the room. Mary Kelly was just 25 when she died, and she was Jack the Ripper's youngest victim.
I am the most famous serial killer of all time. My name is Jack the Ripper. It all started in 1888. When Jack the Ripper terrorized the streets of London, England, for 12 weeks straight. It all started with one gruesome murder, then another. He targeted the Whitechapel area of London, which was well known to be a hotspot for nightlife. This area was a popular destination amongst young women, which seemed to be his main victims. Jack would appear from the shadows, coming out of his evil lair to prey on his next victim. He was most famous for slaying after female night workers and had a fetish for slit throats and mutilated corpses. On one occasion, it was speculated that he munched on one of his victims' kidneys. His victims used to drink in the local pub, and it was said that he would stalk the streets waiting for one of them to leave, and that's when he would make his vicious attacks. What makes this story even more scary is the fact that Jack the Ripper was never, ever found. Legend has it that his ghost is still roaming the streets of London looking for his next victim. To save yourself, comment, "Save me from the Ripper," right now.
This human monster terrorized London for decades, and the crazy part is, they were never able to catch him. Jack the Ripper is infamous for unaliving dozens of people, specifically women of the night, but what he did in 1888 would put him down in history. In a span of a few months, he was able to unalive 5 victims, and after he was done, just like that, he disappeared, and we never heard from him again. Many believe that he's a man with experience in medicine or butchery, based on the way he brutalized those bodies. A huge reason why people are fascinated with this case is, unfortunately, they never caught the monster who did this, and to this day, no one has paid for these horrific crimes.
I'm the reason.
Souls, for I shall unravel the mysteries that cloak my existence. It is I, Jack the Ripper, the phantom that haunted the gaslit streets of Victorian London. Let my words dance with the macabre truth that lies hidden behind the veil of shadows. Who am I, you dare inquire? I am not a mere mortal, but a predator, a maestro of malevolence, orchestrating a symphony of terror. The world brands me a monster, a fiend draped in the cloak of humanity. The wretched souls of Whitechapel, abandoned and forgotten, became the harbingers of my wrath. I handpicked my victims with chilling precision. Under the cloak of night, I metamorphosed into their retribution personified. With surgical precision, my blade caressed their flesh, spilling their crimson life force upon the cobbled streets. I, Jack the Ripper, stand as a haunting testament, forever etched in history's annals, a chilling reminder of the yawning abyss that resides within the souls of us all.
Dark alleys of London knew me all too well. They called me Jack the Ripper. 5 women, perhaps more, fell to my sharp blade. My crimes were brutal, methodical, leaving the city in paralyzing fear. Yet, I remained elusive. Who was I, truly? Theories abound, but the mystery lingers on. To delve deeper into my sinister legend, comment, Jack.